The Nightingales, Volume 2, What We Were, by Gallus de Sedenius. As a nightingale, I feel compelled to place quill to parchment and record my thoughts regarding my knowledge of our order. If one day the nightingale should vanish from Tamriel, then let this tome serve as a reminder of what we once were and to dispel any rumour or hearsay about our purposes and our motivations. I will attempt to relate the scant bit of knowledge I have of our history to the best of my ability. It is my hope that in the future someone else may happen upon this writing and amend it in order to expand the record of our existence. Our history begins with the well-known tale. The tome, The Real Baranzia 9, mentions that a bard named Nightingale tricked Queen Baranzia into revealing the location of an artifact called the Staff of Chaos, which he later claimed for his own. The story goes on to reveal that Nightingale was a powerful imperial battle mage named Yegar Tharn in disguise, and that he used the staff to imprison Emperor Uriel Septim VII. His ultimate goal was to assume the form of the banished emperor and sit upon the throne in his stead. In actuality, the individual identified as the bard Nightingale was not Yegar Tharn at all. This master of disguise was a nightingale thief named Draven Indoril. Yegar Tharn hired Draven, one of the greatest master thieves in Skyrim, to seduce Baranzia and coerce her into revealing the location of the Staff of Chaos. After the staff was given to Yegar Tharn, he attempted to eradicate Draven, but his nightingale abilities aided his escape. Yegar Tharn searched for Draven, but eventually had to abandon the pursuit in order to enact his plans involving the Emperor. It is interesting to note that history refers to Yegar Tharn as Nightingale well after the point Draven would have vanished from the story. The distortion of actual events is very typical of Baranzia's manipulation. With the pressure of blame falling squarely on her shoulders for Uriel Septim VII's imprisonment, she twisted the truth and created the notion that the bard named Nightingale was Yegar Tharn himself. She felt the tale of being enthralled by the master sorcerer held more of a forgiving, if not romantic notion, than simply being seduced by a master rogue. Some also further speculate that eliminating Draven from history was her attempt at protecting the reputation of Yegar Tharn, whom she was rumoured to have been quite fond of. Draven had escaped into Morrowind after Yegar Tharn's pursuit and rejoined the Indoril family, who held an estate quite close to the border of Skyrim, which allowed him to perform his nightingale duties at the sepulchre if the need arose. He remained there for many years until the Indoril family began to lose its power and a war between those houses erupted. Not wanting any part of it, and feeling that Yegar Tharn was no longer a threat, Draven left his homeland behind and settled into the Rift under the guise of a miner. Concurrently with Draven's history, born out of Draven's seduction of Baranzia, the Dunmer Queen eventually bore a child. This child, whom Baranzia abandoned with a midwife in an attempt to keep her nightingale story valid, eventually grew into adulthood and struck out on her own to find her father. Calling herself Dralsi, she overturned every stone in Skyrim looking for any traces of Draven. After an unknown number of years passed, she finally located him in a small mining community called Shaw's Stone. He was quite elderly now, no longer the spry rogue that had seduced Baranzia, but nevertheless he was still Dralsi's father, and he treated her as such. In the remaining years of Draven's life, he imparted the ways of the Nightingale to Dralsi until he finally succumbed to his age. Dralsi willingly struck the oath of the Nightingales and performed her duties well in the service of Nocturnal. She eventually took a husband, and together they had a child who they named Karlaya. Oh. Like Dralsi's father did for her, Dralsi taught Karlaya the art of thievery and how to survive in Skyrim, living as a rogue. She intended to pass the Nightingale mantle on to Karlaya, but had to wait until the time was right to reveal it. When she was old enough, Karlaya struck out on her own, wanting to ply her trade in a larger city. She eventually found her way to Riften and joined the Thieves' Guild under my own leadership at the time. As Karlaya slowly climbed the ranks in the guild, I watched her progress and saw much of her mother in her methods. After several years passed, I received word that Dralsy had been killed defending the Twilight Sepulchre from a band of mercenaries, and so it became time for the mantle to be passed. I travelled to Nightingale Hall with Mercer Frey, and together we inducted Carlia into the Nightingales. I will relate my own history in my next volume, and perhaps as I uncover more information, the history of Mercer Frey as well.